Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the premier radio networks, including 160 of the best stations in the US of A and Canada. No, actually, I don't think we have a Canadian station anymore. It used to be on Ontario. I don't think anymore. This is this happened. This show originally appeared August 13th, 2011. Before I get to the show, I do want to apologize. I know last week some of the caller audio was inaudible. That was my error, and we are redoing the studio, so that won't happen again. I think I got them all today, though. I think I pushed the buttons right today. So that was our fault. We know about it, and it won't happen again unless I screw up again. This is episode, my apologies, 795. Enjoy! The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Gazelle, the easy way to sell or recycle used gadgets lying around your home or office. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. For a 5% bonus payment for your used gadgets, go to gazelle.com, and on checkout, use the offer code TWiT. Well, hello there. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. It's time to talk computers, the internet. I had to check. It's on the card here. It says the Tech Guy. And this show, we talk about computers, of course, the internet, cell phones and camcorders and MP3 players and home theater and all that jazz. And I talk about it with you every weekend right here if you call me. Because I can't call you. I don't have your number. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my number. That's the easy one. 8888 Ask Leo. That's 888-827-5536. If my careful calculations are correct. Yesterday was a big anniversary in the history of computing. It was on August 12th, 1981, that IBM released its IBM PC, the first personal computer from IBM. Isn't that amazing? It's been 30 years. I'm going to resist any Sgt. Pepper references. It was 30 years. I couldn't resist it. 30 years ago today, IBM taught the band to play. The first IBM PC, just to give you a sense. Now, 30 years ago, that's, you know, Moore's Law tells us that well, technically, Moore's Law says the number of transistors on a chip doubles every 18 months, but I think we can translate that to every year and a half, the power of a computer doubles and then doubles again. So it's 4 times faster in 3 years and then doubles again. So it's 8 times faster in 4.5 years. And if you do the math, you realize that 30 years later, actually I haven't done the math, 30 years later, we're talking thousands of times faster. Let me tell you about the first IBM PC, just to give you a sense. Now, it only cost $1,565 for the base model. Now, I should point out that in 1981 dollars, $1,565 is worth a lot more than it is today. In fact, if you do the price index, you know, it's roughly $7,500 in today's money. It was a very expensive computer. And look what you got. You got an Intel 8088 processor running at 4 megahertz. Clock speed 4 megahertz. Now remember, we've got, you know, pretty routinely, even in a netbook, you've got 400 times faster clock speeds. Doesn't mean 400 times faster computer. It means several thousand times faster computer, even in an iPad. Because the clock speed is just part of the overall speed. Memory. Oh man, this thing rocked with 16 kilobytes. Kilobytes, not gigabytes, not megabytes, kilobytes. And memory was very expensive. I think another 16 kilobytes cost hundreds of dollars. I can't remember the exact price, but it was very expensive, I remember. Did not come with a hard drive. Those weren't routine in computers till the XT came out a few years later, the IBM XT. The PC just had one floppy disk drive, 160K on the floppy. You couldn't put a single picture from my camera on that. You couldn't put a single word processing document, actually, these days on that. 160K floppy disk. That was the 5 1/4 black inch. Remember those black 5 1/4 inch discs? It did have a cassette port on it. If you couldn't afford the floppy drive, you could hook up a cassette player. Sure, no problem. And run your programs off cassette. That was not an unusual thing to do in those days, actually. I remember my first personal computer, which was a few years before this, I think it was 78, had it was an Atari 800. Actually, the first one was Atari 400. And that's how you would load programs in, with a cassette deck. And, half the time it wouldn't work. It would make this sound as it was loading in, and it would take forever. The monitor that came for $1,500, what did you get? You got an 11.5-inch monitor. How big is it? That's really small. 11.5-inch monitor, and it wasn't a color screen. It wasn't even a graphics screen. It was a green and black text-only monitor. And yet, and this is, I think this is one of the most fun pieces of all of this. Apple Computer, which had, by the way, was already putting out a computer by that time, took out a full-page ad in, I think it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, one of the big national newspapers. And let me read you this ad that Apple released. Welcome, IBM. Remember, Apple was dominant at the time. Apple was personal computing at the time because of the Apple II computer. Welcome, IBM, they said. Welcome to the most exciting and important marketplace since the computer revolution began 35 years ago. I don't know what computer revolution they're talking about. 35 years ago. And congratulations on your first personal computer. Putting real computing power in the hands of the individual, this is 1981, is already improving the way people work, think, learn, communicate, and spend their leisure hours. Computer literacy is fast becoming as fundamental a skill as reading or writing. When we invented the first, Apple had to say this, right? When we invented the first personal computer system, not true, by the way. We'll let them have a little hyperbole. It's an ad. The first personal computing systems came from companies like MITS with their Altair kit. When we first invented the personal computer, we estimated that over 140 million people worldwide could justify the purchase of one if only they understood its benefits. Next year alone, we project that well over 1 million will come to that understanding. Over the next decade, the growth of the personal computer will continue in logarithmic leaps. I think they meant exponential. Did they mean logarithmic? We look forward to responsible competition in the massive effort to distribute this American technology to the world. And we appreciate the magnitude of your commitment. Because what we are doing is increasing social capital. Interesting, 1981, they already were using the word social. Increase social capital by enhancing individual productivity. Welcome to the task, Apple. It was considered at the time, incredibly, a lot of chutzpah, hubris. And actually, I think for a long time it seemed kind of silly, but now that Apple is kind of back on top, it's not so far-fetched. So that was August 1981. In January 1982, PC Magazine was launched. It's gone. It's online only. No more paper. In November of 1982, this was a big, important event. The first IBM PC compatible was launched from Compaq. So now it's not just IBM making PCs, it's other companies as well. 1983, Time Magazine put the computer on the cover as not Person of the Year, but Machine of the Year. And in January 1984, almost 3 years later, Apple had its famous 1984 commercial and released the Macintosh, which changed computing again. And it's been a seesaw battle. IBM kind of got out of the PC business. They're now just a services company. They don't make PCs anymore. They even sold their famous ThinkPad laptops to a Chinese company. They're out of that business. Too bad too, because those were nice. How many of you had an IBM PC? Let's hear about it. You had one? They were made out of steel, baby. 88 Ask Leo. Let's talk. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Don't you know, talking about a revolution.
The 30th anniversary of the PC revolution. You know, I mean, as I mentioned, it wasn't by any means the first personal computer when IBM came out with its IBM PC on August 12th, 1981. It was just the first from IBM. But that was important because you got to remember, back in those days, there were sayings like, nobody ever got fired for buying an IBM. And the computers that were popular before the IBM PC came out were, generally speaking, considered toy computers. Even the Apple II, despite the fact that it had VisiCalc on it, which was the first spreadsheet program, and a lot of businesses bought Apple IIs. But these were the same businesses that were using IBM 370s and big, mini computers and mainframe computers, and they didn't really believe that personal computers were good for anything. And I think when you look at the specs and the cost, you probably could say, yeah, they weren't far off. 16 kilobytes of RAM, 11-inch screen. What are you going to do with all that? Of course, remember, VisiCalc was 8K, and that's why it was so small, because you didn't have a lot of memory to work with in those days. So it wasn't the first personal computer. I mean, there was the MITS Altair. There were CPM computers long ago. Before that, many companies made those. There was the Apple. There was the Commodore. There was the Atari. There were tons of computers, home computers out. But this was, when the IBM PC came out, it was the first kind of business computer, or at least it gave the seal of approval from the business computing company. So many changes since then. In fact, when was the last IBM? Let me look through this. PC Magazine put together a little timeline here. And let me just see when IBM got out of the PC business. It must be on the timeline somewhere, right? Do you remember when the last IBM computer was sold? It's not on the timeline, but I'm thinking it was more than 10 years ago they got out of that business. They became consultants, service company. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Now, all this stuff is on the webpage, and we'll put links to the various timelines and stuff for PC Magazine. You'll find that over at techguylabs.com. That's the webpage. techguylabs.com. And there's a chat room, always fun, 768 people in our chat today. There's live audio and video, and of course, a list of all the radio stations you can hear us on, over 160 stations now, including XM Satellite 166. That's all at techguylabs.com. So you don't have to write any of this stuff down. Let's go to Turlock, California. Our first call of the day is Stephen. Hello, Stephen. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for
I have a question on external hard drives. And I went to Costco because I need a new one. I saw the 3-terabyte MyBook, Western Digital.
Isn't that amazing? How much was that?
$129.
How much? $349?
$129.
$129. Okay. Oh, my goodness. 3 terabytes.
But then I started reading the reviews, and every single review of every hard drive I looked at had a lot of bad reviews. So is there a hard drive you would recommend?
Really? Who reviews hard drives, just out of curiosity?
Well, I was just looking at the customer reviews.
Oh, like on Newegg or somewhere like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Newegg's actually a pretty good place, especially because the people who buy from Newegg are generally enthusiasts. So if you see a review on Newegg, it's somebody who cares enough about hard drives to actually have an opinion. Because I'll be honest, no normal person says, "Oh, I prefer the Seagate drives to the Hitachi drives." Wait, what? Do you know? I mean, I don't even know what kind of hard drive's in my computer. But enthusiasts know, and they care. There were bad reviews, but also take this with a grain of salt, because it's a minimal difference, really. So Western Digital went through a period of time where they had some real problems with their hard drives. I think that's over. I don't think it's a problem right now. Seagate, Hitachi, I think, sold their... that's the other problem, is that who owns whom, because a lot of these brand names are owned by other people. So I wouldn't even worry about it. Now, I do think that 3 terabytes is a little concerning, because the way they get so much more data in a hard drive is by jamming the bits on the platter closer together. And more bits on the platter means more chance for errors. Modern hard drives have errors by the thousands every day, but they have error correction that's so good that you don't notice it. So, in my opinion, the Western Digitals are just fine. I'm a little nervous about 3 terabytes, but all hard drives have problems eventually. So it's not like you could buy a hard drive and say, look, this is never going to fail. This thing is going to be the ultimate reliability, so I don't have to back it up. And it ain't the case.
No, I still follow your 3-2-1 rule and all that.
Good. That's the backup rule. 3 copies of everything you want. 1 original, 2 backups. 2 different forms of media. 1's off-site. All of those are important. I wouldn't hesitate buying that 3 terabyte.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I have one other question, if I could. I have a Canon 1D Mark IV, and I need a new compact flash card. Is there a big difference, you think, between the 400 times and the 600 times I get in the camera? Not
the real question is what the camera's capable of, right? So
right, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you can't. And the 1D is not the most latest recent camera, but I suspect because it's a very high-end camera. Wait a minute. You said you had the Mark IV?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brand new.
A year old.
Yeah, I would get the fastest memory you can afford.
Okay.
Because it will make a difference. It makes a difference in the, motor wind. I call it motor wind. That shows how old-fashioned I am. What is the digital term for the motor wind? It takes 20 pictures. That's where you notice the difference, because it's got to write all those out before you can, when you fill up the buffer, before you can take another picture. And that's why the pros buy very expensive burst. Thank you, chat room. Thank you, chat room. Burst speeds. I know we had a photographer on. Was it Chris Marquardt? It was somebody who recommended a very unusual compact flash. I use the big I do prefer the big names, the SanDisks, the Lexar. A lot of pro photographers use Lexar. But there was some funny named company. Do you remember, chat room? I don't remember what it was. It was like Hadoop or something. It was a strange named company. Hoodman. Thank you, Sandman. Yes, Leica. Hoodman. One of our pros. And these things are like 3 or 4 times more expensive. Speed is important. If you have a late model camera, as you do, Stephen, I'd get the fastest memory you can so that it keeps up with the camera's capabilities. You don't need to buy anything that's faster than the camera can write, obviously. But if the camera can write, and a modern camera will be able to write at the full speed, then I would get the high end. And Hoodman is a high-end flash. My suspicion, I don't know, but my suspicion is that all flash is made in the same few factories in China. The only difference would be the testing after manufacture. What you don't want is a flash drive that you take, very important pictures on, and then it dies on you. You want a flash drive that's going to be pretty reliable, and they're not necessarily. They often die. So a couple of things. I usually don't buy the biggest, the 32 gigs. I'll go with 8 or 16. That way you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And it's worth spending a little extra for at least a good brand name, maybe Hoodman, for more reliability. 8888 Ask Leo, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Wow. I love that. I Yes, Kyle's back on the board. Kyle Benham mixing the music here on the show. And is it Gina on the phones today?
You got it. Gina Yates.
Gina Yates on the phones. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Ian in Kentucky. Hello, Ian. Welcome, Leo Laporte, D-Tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Great to finally talk to you. I've been following you since the Tech TV days.
Thank you.
Hey, before I get to my question, I just wanted to thank you. I know I shot you an email about this, but I just got back from a year-long deployment to Afghanistan.
Oh, that was you. Boy, I was so moved by that. Thank you.
Your show really helped to pass time. I really enjoyed it.
Tell me about your deployment.
Well, we were along the eastern border of Afghanistan, right along Pakistan, and there was some fighting out there, but my guys got through it all right.
Boy, you were on the front lines. Which branch of the service?
Army.
Ian, I thank you so much for your service to our country, especially there. I know how hard that is, and I'm just so grateful. Ian wrote that he's in the 101st Airborne, that you were there for 12 months, and I guess your wife was sending you CDs?
Yeah, she was burning my favorite podcasts off the TWiT network and sending them, so I was listening to Tech Guy, Mac Weekly, a couple other shows. Really enjoyed it, though.
And you're a staff sergeant?
Yes.
So nice to meet you, Ian. I'm glad you called because I've been meaning to. I sent you a thank you, and I did forward your email to everybody in the company because I think it really is inspiring to hear how far this show can reach and who listens. And so I thank you so much for writing to me and more importantly for putting your life on the line for us. Thank you, Ian. So welcome back. Are you back for good or?
You're back for good for at least probably a couple of years. So it's good to be back in the States.
I bet
it's amazing what you miss out on when you're over there.
And thank your wife for me for so many reasons.
I definitely will do. I appreciate the support.
Yeah.
But hey, my question is, I just my little gift to myself when I redeployed was a new Canon T2i, and
great
really
camera.
love it. Really love it.
Did you take it to Afghanistan?
No, I got it when I got back.
You came back, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to take anything that expensive over there.
No kidding. And the dust and the heat and everything probably wouldn't be too good for it either.
Yeah, it's murder on electronics over there. You'd be amazed how many laptops go down.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
But my wife and I are about to take a vacation. We're going on a cruise down through the Western Caribbean. And I was really interested in getting a geotagging device that would be compatible with that camera, as well as aperture, which is what I'm using for my editing. I was wondering if you had any suggestions.
You know, this is a very rapidly changing area. You know, there are a number of geotagging little fobs. I have one back here that's just a little fob that goes off your keychain. You put a couple of batteries in it. What happens is you turn it on and it tracks you. And you can say how often it should get a fix, you know, whether every minute, every 10 seconds. You know, it'll do it every 10 seconds if you want. Probably every minute is sufficient. And then what it does is it writes out, there are a number of standard formats for these geo tags that you can then import. I don't know what Aperture does, but it's not really, it doesn't really matter because there's a lot of programs that will do that anyway. You know, just convert it to Aperture format. Or in most cases, what will happen is these programs will embed it into the image itself, and so then when Aperture imports it, it sees it. Let me see if I can find the one I was using. You know, I stopped doing it because almost all smartphones now have that capability. Are you going to take it? I guess you won't take a smartphone to the Caribbean with you, probably, huh?
No, probably won't get service down there really. So
yeah.
What I was looking really though is something that could import it into either kind of work seamlessly with my workflow into Aperture, or put it into the metadata before it was imported into Aperture.
Right. Let me see. There's a program. My mind is slipping. There's a program that I was using, and I have this fob here, and it's been a while since I did this. Let me see if I can find the name of both of these. You know, now there's cameras. Nikon has a number of cameras with GPS built in. Oh boy, you know what? I'm going to have to take a pass until the next break, and I'm going to look. I don't want to waste too much time looking this up, but I have all that information. And you're obviously using a Mac. There's an excellent program. If Aperture won't do it, and I bet you Aperture will do it, frankly, because Aperture, you know, it's gotten pretty sophisticated on all this. Here, this is one. This is the Wintech. The chat room just sent me. It's $89. It's about the size of a keychain fob. It supports KML files, which is the Google Earth file. That's a good file format. But almost all of these will support all the other tracking formats. This is the WBT 201 from Wintech, WINTEC. They're all very similar.
Okay.
I had this is the one I had. It was from QStarz, QSTARZ, and it was the 1000 XT, and that was $109. I think these are all probably fairly similar. What you do is you turn them on, as I said, and it saves the waypoints, and then via USB, because that's how you charge it. It also will import the waypoint track. And then I'll just have to figure out what it is Aperture is expecting in terms of file format. I suspect it won't be too big a deal. Maybe somebody in the chat room can help me. That's a great idea. That T2I is an excellent camera. Excellent camera. And I think you're just going to get some great pictures. A great idea, Ian.
Yeah, one other question for you if you have the time. I was also looking to get a new lens before I took my trip. I'm shooting a lot of nature photos and whatnot, and I wanted something that would take me out to 200 millimeter focal length, and I'm kind of on a budget. I was just wondering if you had any recommendations.
I'd look at the Sigma lenses. They're pretty good lenses. They're third-party lenses for Canon. You know, Canon lenses are going to cost the most.
Right.
And a 200, like something like a 8200 zoom, is going to be fairly expensive and big. But Sigma and other companies make these, and it's fine. The program that I used to use is from Huda, HOUDAH.com. It's called Huda Geo. And basically, it will go through your pictures, import the XML or KML file, and then add the geotagging. It works with Aperture. So it won't get in the way. Now, I'm looking Aperture. Yeah, it looks like you need to use a third-party thing for this in Aperture. Aperture won't do it natively, unless they've updated it recently. But the Huda Geo works great. So get the Huda Geo. It sees your pictures in Aperture. It merges then the KML file with the pictures. It puts it in the EXIF data or the IPTC tag. It puts it in the tags of the picture. Aperture can see that, and then Aperture does those great maps and things. That's a really nice idea. So Huda, and it may be that I think the QStarz might have come with some software. It may be that these little geotagging devices come with software.
Okay, well, I'll definitely check it out. I appreciate your time, Leo, and thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, Ian. Thank you so much for your service. Thanks for writing to me, too. It was really, boy, I can't tell you how, I want to say cool, but there's a better word, how amazing it is. The reach of these shows and the internet and the other shows we do, the podcasts that we do, all over the world. I know many people in the service listen, but just all over the world. And I just it's very flattering. It's very exciting. And I thank you so much, Ian, for what you have done for this country. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Big Tech Guy. 88. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Tom in Riverside, California. Hi, Tom. Leo Laporte here.
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
I've got a problem with a P4 PC. I tried to put in some drivers, and the thing crashed and gave me a system error 32 drivers PCI.sys error. And now it won't reboot. It just goes to that error every time I try to boot up.
You know, it could just be a coinkydink that the hard drive failed right at the time that you were trying to do something with it. And that's my strong inclination that that's what's wrong. The P4 is how old? 10 years old?
Well, it's actually, I bought it in 2005.
Okay. 6, 7 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking could be a bad driver, but it seems unlikely. First thing to do is to test if it's a bad driver is to start up in safe mode. Safe mode is, as you know, in Windows, a very limited version of Windows that loads the base set of drivers and most of the time not any of those fancy drivers that you've installed. Have you tried that?
Yeah, well, Windows won't even load.
Well, it's not. You know that you do it right at the beginning. You hold the Shift key down, or you tap F8 on that computer, probably.
Yeah.
And you can't. It won't load in that case.
No. I put the original disk back in and tried to do a restore, and it attempted to do a restore, but it finally failed on another .sys corrupted thing, and then it tried to.
It's a hard drive problem.
It failed on another one, and my question really is it worth buying another hard drive, put it in there, and start over again? Or
well, they're cheap. You heard $129 for 3 terabytes. So I would imagine a 1 terabyte drive would be about $80 or $90.
Right.
So if you have the disks that you can get everything back up and running, you know, your restore disks and everything. Yeah. If you care, I mean, why throw that computer out? Is it fast enough to do what you've been doing?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking was that after, if I can get it back up, then could I put that drive back in as a slave?
You could. Really, probably the first thing to do is to partition, is to F-disk the drive, format it, and try reinstalling on top of it, and do a thorough format. It could just be you know. There's two things that can go. Well, there's more than two things. There's several things that can go wrong with a hard drive. One of them is just simply, hey, that drive's been, you know, that software was put on there 7 years ago or 6 years ago, and it's just it's gotten a little bit harder and harder to read, and finally the drive just said, I can't read this sector. It may not even be a bad sector. It's just, you know, that it just over time it's kind of decayed, and formatting it and rewriting it might work. If you had a buddy with SpinRite, or you had a copy of SpinRite, that would probably be a good thing to do. Run it on that drive. It'll take all the sectors that can no longer be written to. That's what happens. A drive is divided up into little chunks called sectors, and what happens is sectors fail. And unfortunately, sounds like some key sectors with system files on it failed for you, but no big deal, because all you have to do really is take those sectors, say don't use those anymore, and you could probably still use the hard drive. I think though, you know, probably a drive that Pentium 4 can see. You know, like a 500 megabyte drive.
Right.
You probably could find on eBay cheaply. If you could find a new one, that'd be best, but it might be hard to find a new one. I bet you it's an IDE, not an SATA drive, right?
No, it's a SAT.
Oh, well, that's good news. That'll be a little easier to find. I just get the smallest one you can. You'll probably have to partition it for the, is it XP?
Yes, XP Pro.
Service Pack 3?
3, yes.
All right.
It was all up to date and everything.
Yeah.
Kept it up to date.
I suspect that you'll be able to see a terabyte on that machine. So get a cheap new drive, and then yes, put that second drive in as a slave. How big was the original?
It was 250 gigs.
Seemed like a lot at the time, didn't it?
Yeah. It was running kind of full anyway. I mean, it was about, I would say, 60%, 65%. So.
Yeah. Well, you need a big drive then.
One anyhow.
Yeah. Get a terabyte drive. If you can't see the whole terabyte, then partition it into 2 512 gigabyte.
My original disk onto the new drive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Hey, good luck, Tom. Yeah, I think it seems like something worse happened, but I think really that's all that happened. And that's, you know, sad to say, very common. Drives fail. In fact, wasn't it Google? I talked about this some months ago. Google did a great study of hard drives in which they discovered that, you know, they have, I don't know how many millions of hard drives in their servers. And they kept track of, you know, performance and reliability, and they found that hard drives, if they survive the first few months, usually last about 2 years, and then start failing at a pretty consistent rate year over year, something like 8% a year every year. And that's just what happens. Brian in Oceanside, California. You're next. Hi, Brian. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, well, I'm glad to take it. What can I do for you?
Well, hey, I have a quick question for you. We're thinking about getting Netflix, and I have a wireless router. My wife has an iPad. I have a laptop, and then my son has a laptop. So we're using one wireless router. My question kind of basically is I can get a second wireless router if you think it will improve the performance, or...
No, it won't. I mean, no.
Okay.
Now, if you all three start watching Netflix, it's not going to be the router that's going to be the problem. It's going to be your internet service provider.
Right. I think I got 3 megs coming up. I have a cable modem, so that should be okay. So you think the wireless router will be able to handle all 3 computers with no problem?
You mean all watching Netflix all at the same time?
Yeah, or doing some streaming video, you know, or anything like that. Music, applications.
Well, here's what I would suggest. Your big TV I would hook up not wirelessly. Are you going to use a Roku box? What are you going to use to hook the TV
You know
up?
what, you just reminded me of something. We're going to be watching internet Netflix on the Wii downstairs on our big TV. So yes.
Yeah. So that I would make hardwired. That way it's kind of got preference. I mean, to be honest, 3 megabits per second is not super fast.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be tough to get 3 independent streams at the same time.
Okay.
And that's not a router issue. It's a bandwidth issue.
Gotcha.
So, but, you know, hey, hardwire the TV.
Right.
And make sure it gets, you know, that way it's going to get enough bandwidth. And then if it stops working, to tell the son, hey, turn off the TV.
Hey, he's 7. He's only watching like SpongeBob and all that.
Sure, he'll watch, you know, Happy Tree Friends and Barney or whatever it is, the kids, Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
By the way, Netflix is great for that because all the kids' shows are on there, and they just.
And you were doing a recap earlier about technology. Franklin 8, 64, I think, kilobyte was my first computer as a kid.
A Franklin, yeah, that was wasn't that an Apple clone?
Yes, it was, exactly. Yeah, I think 64 megabytes or kilobytes or something like that.
It was kilobytes. It was 64K.
Yeah.
Because the first Windows PC maxed out. It came with 16 kilobytes, or not Windows, IBM PC. Came with 16 kilobytes, but you couldn't put more than 640 kilobytes in it.
And now you were talking about a 3 terabyte hard drive.
I know.
Where technology is going, and I've been listening to your podcast on the TWiT network. And
thank you, Brian.
I'm in technology also, and I'll tell you, I learned so much from listening to you and Steve Gibson and all those guys that are out there. You guys do a phenomenal job, and I like where technology is going. You know,
Thank you.
Online, on the radio, everywhere. So keep it up.
Thank you, Brian. It's a very exciting time, really. And if you think about what you're doing, oh, yeah, we're going to watch movies over the internet, 3 different movies, all at the same time, all with the same $7.99 a month account. That's pretty cool. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Now, I do want to mention our friends at Gazelle because they are sponsoring the podcast today. You know about Gazelle, gazelle.com. I made up the slogan, don't sell it, gazelle it. And I hope they don't mind, but that's really the idea for me is we all have stuff lying around. Look, I'll just show you. Watch this. I'll open up my drawer. This is the junk drawer. There's stuff in here. I mean, I don't even know what some of this stuff is. So wouldn't you want to, you know, there's probably thousands of dollars worth of gadgets just lying around in here. The heck is that? I don't even know. See, what you do is, oh, look. What is this? That looks like, oh, yeah, this is one of those CC Witness MP3 radio recorders attached to a bunch of other stuff. So, no, Ozzy, there's nothing in there for you. So here's the deal. My dog's all excited. Oh, he found treats. Here's the deal. Go through your drawer. I know you have one like that at home. And find some stuff in there. And then go to gazelle.com, Gazelle.com, and enter in the stuff you got. You might be amazed at how much this stuff is worth. But even if it's only worth 10 or 20 bucks, you know, how much trouble is it worth for you to do all this? Even if it's only worth 10 or 20 bucks, it's worth going to Gazelle and putting it all here. Let's see what I don't know this I don't even know. See, Crane, let's see if they even have this. You can sell DVDs on here. I didn't know that. Wow. I got a few of those, too. I wonder if they take HD DVDs. I need a model number in there. Whoops. I just closed it. So go to Gazelle.com. Enter in all the stuff you've got. Now, here's the deal. What happens is that they'll give you a price. I got to put something in here. iPod. You've got an old iPod. Let's say the first generation. This is going to be worth $5. Then they'll ask you what condition it is. Yeah, you know, it's normal wear and tear. No, slight wear. Faint scratches and scuffs, yeah. And no personalization. Working battery, yeah. Yeah, you got all the cables. Yeah, I'll throw those in. So what? It's not worth anything. Okay, sometimes that happens. I mean, look how old this thing is. So that, they'll recycle responsibly for you, right? Which is really nice. Let's see. I have an old Sony PSP, functional, no noticeable flaws. Let's say it has all this. Let's see what could. And by the way, look at the graph so you can see how it's getting less and less value. So $23. So I'm gonna add this to the box. You go through all this stuff and you add it to the box. It's a virtual box. Eventually, you'll get a box. You'll throw it all in a box. They'll give you a mailing label. And then, bada bing, bada boom, they send you a check or a gift card. In fact, if you get an Amazon card from them, I think they add 5% to the overall value of it. I'm going to tell you how to add another 5% in just a second. They also have Walmart cards or, cash. They'll send you a check. Average payment, I think, for like the Kindles, $100, iPhones, $20 to $200, MacBooks, $600. They will wipe your data too. You don't have to think about that. You get an Amazon gift card, PayPal check, Walmart gift card. Actually, they have Newegg now. Go to Gazelle.com and try it. And then, when you're checking out, make sure you enter the offer code TWiT, and they'll add another 5% bonus payment. So don't sell it. Gazelle it. Gazelle.com. You get that drawer and get rid of it. Even just such a good feeling doing that. And we thank them for supporting the Tech Guy podcasts. This is something new we're doing, which is we were just kind of doing the podcast pro bono. And then we went to our sponsors and said, hey, well, would you like to buy an ad on the podcast? And they said, all right. So they help us out. So make sure you support them. Gazelle.com. They do recycle it. They do EPA certified green recycling. Never goes into a landfill. Never goes offshore. It's really great. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all that. We do every weekend at this time. The phone number is 8888. Ask. Love to hear from you. If you've got a question for me, or you'd like to know something, or you'd like to understand something better, or if there's a term that's confusing you. Interesting story on DSLreports.com. FCC website accidentally revealed something yesterday about the AT&T-T-Mobile merger. Remember, the AT&T Wireless is trying to acquire T-Mobile, eliminating one of the four. We only really have four real cell phone companies in this country. AT&T, the biggest, then Verizon, then Sprint, then T-Mobile. AT&T is trying to acquire T-Mobile, reducing the amount of competition. Yesterday, a document briefly appeared on the FCC website, apparently accidentally posted by the law firm working for AT&T on that deal. AT&T immediately called reporters saying, "Oh, there's nothing to see here. Move along. There's no new information in here." According to DSL reports, oh, yes, there is. AT&T, for instance, has claimed that the deal will increase jobs and investment in the network. This document shows, according to DSL reports, that actually the network investment will be reduced with the elimination of T-Mobile. AT&T telling regulators that network investment, building out of the network will increase by $8 billion. They're telling investors, the people whose money they have, that, well, actually, over the next 6 years, we'll reduce investment by it'll save us about $10 billion. AT&T says they need T-Mobile to increase network coverage from 80 to 90% of the population. Remember that map they showed saying you're gonna get more 3G coverage. Rural areas that aren't served will now be served. Well, the truth is, had AT&T just continued its build-out, they would have done that anyway. There would have been LTE everywhere anyway. For the first time, the letter says the cost of bringing AT&T's LTE coverage to that 97% number of the U.S. is $3.8 billion. That's considerably less. It's like 1/10 of the amount of money they're actually spending to buy T-Mobile. So had they spent 1/10 the amount, they would have been able to grow their LTE network to that size anyway. So it's not about growing the LTE network. The $39 billion you're spending on T-Mobile is really, as we've thought all along, as I've said all along, to eliminate competition. To make it possible for them to charge us more, to have fewer places for us to go. The truth is, T-Mobile duplicates in many ways AT&T's infrastructure. It's not T-Mobile's infrastructure they wanted. It's their customers. It's to make them a bigger company so that they can, ultimately become more of a monopoly. So I'll put a link to this Broadband Reports. By the way, good job. I guess they call themselves Broadband Reports, not DSL Reports. That's their old name. But good job, Broadband Reports, on picking up on this document and on their reporting here. I think well done. And of course, it's not going to change anything because, as we well know, the Congress and the FCC are beholden to the big wireless companies. They get lots of money from them. So I expect that this merger, as everybody else does, will go through, and we'll have fewer choices. And that's just the way it's going to be. Don in Santa Monica, our next caller. Don, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo. This was going to be a good morning to you, but now it's afternoon, so good afternoon to you, Leo.
I appreciate your patience. Sorry we kept you on hold so long.
Oh, no, that's all right. I'm going to preface this and say I do have your Nod 32 on my computer. I've had it for half a year now.
What do you think?
It's great. Now, the other day I was on a Skype call with a friend. All of a sudden, my screen went blank. It says you're on hold. Somebody started yelling and saying, your computer's been compromised. Stop what you're doing. Call this number, and we'll help you get this thing fixed.
Wow.
Now the red flags came up. Listen to Leo. No, this isn't real.
Good man, Don. Good man. I'm glad to hear that you had that good sense.
Oh, yeah. But, you pound it into us so much.
I'm sorry. I'm a broken record when it comes to that, aren't I?
Wouldn't Nod 32 take care of that?
Well, Nod 32 will, yeah, so that's actually a great question. What Nod 32 will do is keep a virus from infecting your computer. But what it can't necessarily do is keep spam off your system. And essentially that's a kind of spam, isn't it? I don't know if... do you get the sense that was coming from Skype?
No, I don't know where it was coming from. We were talking, we were looking at each other, video call, and all of a sudden the screen went blank. You're on hold. Listen to this message, call this number, do this, we'll help you get your computer fixed.
And did the call come back?
No, I clicked off that thing, and I told the person, I clicked it off, recalled my friend, and we kept talking.
I suspect it was probably just a web pop-up that took over the audio.
Yes.
I don't think it probably... I'd be surprised if it had anything to do with Skype. We use Skype a lot, and I've never...
No, I don't think it was Skype. I thought somebody intruding Skype and doing all this.
Yeah.
And I wanted everything...
And I don't even know if it... I think it probably was just a web pop-up that, because it took over the audio, kind of broke your call.
Oh, okay.
I think probably you're not infected.
No.
And these are just pop-ups. Unfortunately, Nod 32 or any antivirus or security software can't do everything for you. In this case, you probably need some... What browser do you use?
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Yahoo. And I'm on DSL Extreme.
It's probably Internet Explorer branded from Yahoo, I would guess.
But usually they get something like this if you're looking on if you're browsing itself, that message comes up in text. This thing came up in language.
Well, it can, you know. I mean, it was audio, and it can now. I mean, you can do that. I suspect you should, more importantly than anything, get an updated browser.
Okay. Okay.
There is a Flash bug, Lou is telling me in the chat room, and I do remember this, Lou. Flash, Adobe's Flash is notoriously insecure, and there was a Flash bug that would let Flash do this, just take over like that. And upon doing that, of course, Skype would freak out, saying, "Well, something's using the camera and the audio." I would say, what version of Windows? XP?
No, Windows 7.
Oh, good. All right. And I'm trying to think what Yahoo, the Yahoo browser is. Whatever browser you're using, Yahoo doesn't technically make a browser. It sounds like they've branded something.
But when I click on to Skype, well, you click on Skype. You don't go to a browser to get Skype.
Yeah, but the browser is running in the background.
Okay.
On Windows, the browser's always running. I'm thinking, I want to make sure you've done your Windows updates, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, I would open Internet Explorer, upgrade to 9, make sure you have the latest version. It'll ask you once you open it. You might look at Google's Chrome, which I consider the most secure browser. That's free from google.com/Chrome. And then make sure, most importantly, you've got the latest version of Flash. Update your Flash. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, yes, I'm here. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, thank you so much to Web80, what was it, 7883 in the chat room, who came up with a link that just kind of blows my mind for our last caller. Remember, our last caller said he was on a Skype call with a friend, and all of a sudden somebody broke in and yelled, "You've got a virus, we got to get a fix here, download our fix." And Don had the right, of course, instincts, which was, ignore it, it's bogus. And he was wondering, though, how his antivirus software, how Nod32 didn't catch it. Well, it turns out it really was Skype spam. Here's an article, a blog on Microsoft's TechNet site in their Microsoft Malware Protection Center from MMPC2 about Skype spam calls. He writes, earlier this week, I received a phone call via Skype on my laptop. The caller's ID was this kind of randomized ID, Dr. Alert Help ZCA. The voice on the other end was automated, computerized, otherwise non-human, alerted me that I had a virus and that I needed to visit a website to download an update. He says, I found the mystery Skype call odd on 2 accounts. One, I work for a security company that develops antivirus software. And 2, my Skype settings were set to not display my name when I'm online. But apparently my privacy settings had no effect on getting this call. Now, I'm guessing that Don had a Skype feature that says auto answer incoming calls on. That way it would automatically answer any incoming calls. This is a new form of spam. Yes, it is. It's not malware in and of itself. It's just a phone call, a Skype call that came in saying, download this fix. Now, of course, Don was right not to download the fix because it would have undoubtedly been malware that he would have downloaded. But the call itself is just a call. It's a spam call. After a little research, the author, MMPC2, says he was able to determine that the call came from China. By the way, the new home of all the bad stuff that's happening on the internet these days. ASN 4134, ChinaNet backbone, which has a long list of IP addresses known to distribute malicious code. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He says he says not that that's where the call came from, but that's where the call directed him to for the website for the, quote, antivirus fix. Needless to say, you shouldn't download that. His suggestion, I think these are good suggestions, change your Skype privacy settings so that you don't get spam. And I do this, and this is one of the reasons I was unfamiliar with this little scam, because I actually do this anyway on my Skype. I always say that I only want to allow calls for people I know. That's probably the #1 thing to do. It says allow calls. You'll find this in your Skype options under privacy settings. Allow calls from people in my contact list only. Somebody wants to call you, they have to send you a message saying, please add me to your contact list. I think that's a good way to prevent unsolicited calls. He suggests you also turn off automatic video and screen sharing, except from people in your contact list. Only show that you have video to people in your contact list, and only allow IMs from people in your contact list, and then turn off your online status on the web. All of those things will prevent these calls in the future. So, Don, I hope you're still listening, and this is actually Dan Nicolescu and Patrick Nolan writing from MMPC writing on Microsoft's TechNet. We'll put a link in the show notes. This article came out on April 15th, a couple of months ago. Believe it or not, there are, I didn't know this, and that's why it didn't ring a bell. There are Skype spam calls. And, of course, like any spam of any kind, you should ignore it. Wow. Thanks, Don, for pointing us to that problem, and for our chat room again for finding the right answer to that. Chat room's great. Chat room to the rescue, as always. You could find out how to get in the chat room and find a link to that article and all the things I talk about today on our website, techguylabs.com. Dave's in Chicago. Hi, Dave. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo.
Hello, Dave.
All right, I'm on.
You're on, baby.
Hey, I am trying to set up a kind of a home media center.
Okay.
And I want to, stream my own movies and music from my computer. So I bought a Apple TV 2 the other day, installed that, works great. I did the handbrake thing. I can get my movies into iTunes now.
Great.
Now, the next thing is I need to add either an external hard drive or add another internal hard drive, or I don't even know, maybe if the,
Well, you can't add an internal hard drive. That thing's like a hockey puck.
Oh, okay.
Have you? Well, right? I mean, you're talking about to the Apple TV?
Oh, no, to my desktop.
Oh.
So everything, the Apple TV, I'm going to put everything onto iTunes.
I see what you're saying, and then you stream that to the Apple TV. So really what the Apple TV has become is a gateway for your TV to your network.
Yes.
That's really a good way to think of it. And unfortunately, the only way, because of it's Apple, the only way for that to work is that the content that you want to put on your big screen TV has to live on a computer somewhere with iTunes running.
Right. And that's not a problem.
No. Totally doable.
Yeah. So I guess and then the other thing, now if I think, I think I have room on my desktop in the case to put another hard drive.
Sure.
I mean,
is that because you just don't have enough storage for all the movies that you want? Yeah.
So
an external drive would work fine too. You don't have to. In fact, it might be easier. You don't have to put it into the computer. Just get an external drive.
Well, I figured that was going to be my question. If I did an internal one, and I have Carbonite, does that work?
Yeah, but I don't I'll be honest, when you're talking about that much data, I don't think Carbonite's a very good way to back up. Because remember, Carbonite uses your own internet connection to back it up, right?
Oh, right.
So you've got a certain limited internet connection. And remember, it's not the download speed you care about, it's the upload speed. So nobody, even if you've got a big fat download pipe,
right.
Usually you don't have more than a megabit or maybe 2 megabits up. Now, Carbonite's very careful. It's not going to take over, so it won't even use all of that. It'll use a tenth of that. So that means it's slowly uploading. If you have 20 terabytes of data, it's never going to get to the end of it.
Sure.
So I don't recommend. I think Carbonite's fine for smaller files. I don't recommend it for videos, which tend to be gigabytes
Yeah, I just heard you talking about it, and I thought, oh, maybe that's a good idea. But
yeah, online, backing up to the cloud is really better to think of it for your personal documents than to think of it for your media files.
So, what about NAS?
Yeah, let me talk about that. That's good. Let's talk about network attached storage. We've got to take a break. Dave, hang on. We'll continue in just a moment. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte. Sounds French. I don't know why. It just sounds like French minimal or something like that, or German. It's from Berlin. So we were talking with Dave, and I kept Dave over through the break because what you want to do, Dave, is very common. The idea being that he's now got something connected to his TV, in this case an Apple TV, but there's a lot of different things you could use, that gives him access to media on the network. I'm trying to remember, Dave, maybe you know, does Apple TV require you to be running iTunes on a computer to see the data, or can you use what's known as an iTunes server?
I don't know about an iTunes server. I do know that right now I have to have...
You have iTunes running. In fact, if you close iTunes on your computer, it won't see it anymore.
Correct.
A media server does work, says Brian Inri in our chat room. So okay, we're gonna trust Brian on this one. So it is possible to buy a system called a network attached storage, or NAS, that runs software on it that looks like an iTunes server to the Apple TV. It's on your network. It's a NAS. It means that it really is a computer. It just doesn't have a monitor, keyboard, or mouse. It's just a hard drive enclosure with an Ethernet jack in it. It plugs in to your network, and then it appears as a shared drive to all the computers and to the Apple TV. These network-attached storage devices tend to have big hard drives or multiple hard drives, often set up using something called RAID to make sure that their data redundant, that they're safe. If one drive dies, you just put in another drive and you keep going. You don't lose any data. That's nice. Frequently used for backups. In fact, I'd say that's the primary use. But more and more people are using NASs as media hubs, where they'll put their pictures, their music, and their video on those, and then it'll share it back. So any good NAS will do the iTunes server, the Windows Media Server. Others will do other, types.
How do you set that up? Is it iTunes server or what?
It's automatic. It's just so there's a couple I recommend. Right now I'm using one from a company called Synology, Synology. They make excellent NAS boxes. Now, you're going to look at the price and you might choke.
Yeah.
Because remember, you're not just buying the enclosure. You have to buy drives, and it can add up. They make these big enterprise solutions, but they also make home solutions. Their disk station is what I'm using, and they have 2 or 4 bay disk stations. The way these work, it's great. You put drives in them, or you can buy them populated. Mine has 2 drives. They have them with 4 drives as well. 4 is better because you get more storage. Also, if any one drive dies, you pop it out and you put another one in.
Yeah, I have actually RAID in my desktop.
Yeah, it's RAID. It's exactly what it is. And I love these Synologies because they have very easy-to-use software. They have a 1-bay version even for people who are really budget conscious. Amazon sells these. I have the I think I have the 2-bay system. This is the DS211 or 411J. And then running it automatically, there's just, you interface to it through the network via a web browser. So just like setting up your router, you launch a browser on any computer on the network. As long as they're all in the same network segment, they'll be able to see it. You'll type in the address of the NAS, 192.168.1.100, let's say, and a browser screen will pop up with all the controls, and you just check a box that says, turn on the iTunes server. And then you'll say where the iTunes music and video is living, because you have to tell it what folder. And then you've got to set up the backup system that will automatically back up the data to that drive or copy that data over to that drive, and there the data is. So really, it works. I use it all the time. Now, I also use a product called the Ready NAS that I like a lot. This is from Netgear, READYNAS. But they're all very similar. You can even build your own if you want. If you have an old computer lying around, there are Linux distributions that are designed to do this. You just put them on the computer. It's an easy thing to do.
Okay. Well, one other question, Leo. I've got, the wife, the kids, they all have their own iTunes libraries.
Right.
How do I combine those?
This is why I did this, by the way. Because my kids would buy music that I already own, and they'd say, well, how are we supposed to know? So what I never really, the kids didn't cooperate. But in theory, what I would do is create one big folder on the NAS and get everybody's music into that, and then tell iTunes that's where your library is. It's not locally on the local hard drive. It's over there on the NAS. And iTunes will do that. You'll have to set it up depending on Windows or Mac. It varies, but you'll have to set it up so it will mount the drive so it looks like a local drive to iTunes. It'll see it, and it'll play music directly from it. It'll play video directly from it on the iTunes.
So I just copy everybody's music. Even if I get an external hard drive, I just copy everybody's iTunes library, put it into a single folder on the hard drive.
Now, you're going to have some duplicates. Because, you may have 3 copies of the same song on 3 different libraries. So there are synchronization programs out there. On the Mac, I use a program called ChronoSync that will make sure I actually put ChronoSync on all my systems in the house. And I have it running. It's an automatic synchronization backup. I have it running on a schedule every day. And what it does is it backs up key files to that network-attached storage drive that's downstairs in the closet, and make sure that there are no duplications going on.
Is there a Windows program?
Oh, there's a ton of them. In fact, Microsoft makes one itself that is free and is pretty good, called SyncToy. It's not a good name because it implies it's a toy, but it's free. And then there are more sophisticated programs out there. There are lots of them, folder synchronization programs out there. In fact, you may find, and I think this is the case on both the ReadyNAS and Synology, that they have software on them that do it. The ReadyNAS does this. You don't have to run backup software on your local machines. The NAS will reach out and get the files.
Yeah, I was looking at external hard drives, and I saw some of them that their programs, their continuous backup programs.
Right.
It's hard for them, like if you turn off your computer, it's hard for them to disconnect and some issues like that I've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, now you're in a networking field, and it's, this is a little more tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, any recommendation on an external hard drive, a 2 terabyte external, like Phantom, or?
They're all fine. The Go drives, frankly, that My Book from Western Digital that you're seeing at the warehouse stores so cheap, those are fine too.
Okay,
but they will not have the same. Remember, they're cheaper, but they won't have the same capability as a NAS does. A NAS is running software that says I'm an iTunes server.
Right, I understand the two differences. Right. And then what is it? The eSATA. That's going to be better than 2.0 USB.
Yes, absolutely. eSATA is an external version of the SATA connection that's internal on your computer. It's full speed. It's just like the external drive is just like an internal drive.
Oh, okay, because I do have that on the back of my mother.
Yeah. If you've got eSATA on your system, use it. Okay, Dave.
Great. Thank you very much, Leo. Great program. Teaching me all kinds of stuff.
Great to talk to you. I think I'm a hobbyist at heart. I suddenly realized that even my work is basically a hobby. And now I'm getting into this ham radio thing. It's just, I'm a hobbyist. That's all. And I hope you share my hobby. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Bye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. All right, I give up, Kyle. What's the reason, the rationale behind this song? My hobby. Tennessee Ernie Ford, my hobby. Of course. Why didn't I know that? It's kind of nice that you could make a job out of your hobby, isn't it? If you love to cook. Unfortunately, you become a chef. Unfortunately, when you have a hobby and then you start doing it as a job, sometimes that could take the fun out of it. When I was really into music, this is how I got into radio. I was really into music, and I thought, oh, this is cool. I was in college. If I become a DJ, what a fool I was. If I become a DJ, I'll get to that'll be my job, play the music I love all the time. And then I found out that the way it works when when you become a professional is they tell you. Kyle's got to figure it out. He tells them what to play, right? Kyle, you know what you're doing. You got the right idea. Wayne in California, you're next. Leo Laporte, the guy. Hi, Wayne.
Hello, Leo.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I sure appreciate you taking my call.
My pleasure. What can I do for you?
Well, I recently purchased an iPhone to replace my regular cell phone, as I have been doing eBay business since '98. When I travel, I need to monitor my my site to see if I can accept offers or buy things, and I want to use my iPhone as a router. That means I believe I have to jailbreak my phone to use for my, so I can carry my laptop with me.
Right. So there are two ways to use a cell phone as a internet access device. One's called tethering. One's called hotspotting. Tethering would be you connect it via USB to your computer, and it's like a I don't know, a USB modem on your computer. Hotspot is a capability that's got to be built into the software in the phone that turns the phone into a Wi-Fi access point, kind of like one of those MiFi cards.
That's what I'd like to, because I had a Wi-Fi card, but since I only rented it per month, the download speed was so slow, it was almost like dial-up.
Right.
And I didn't want to pay for the yearly contract of, I think it's like $50 or $40 a month for an entire year when I'm only vacationing only a few weeks out of the year.
Do you have a Verizon or an AT&T iPhone?
I have a Verizon.
Oh, good news. It's only going to cost you $20 a month.
Really?
Yeah. And it's built into iOS 4.3 or later. There's a personal hotspot capability. It's in the settings.
Really?
Yeah. You don't have to jailbreak it or nothing, as far as I know.
And it's only $20 a month?
I think that's what Verizon. What does Verizon charge for that chat room? I think it's $20 a month. Yeah.
I know. Is that a yearly contract you have to sign up for? Or is that something you can do monthly?
I think that it's an additional feature to your phone, right? So you can turn it off whenever you want.
Really? Because that'd be just wonderful. Because I can use the iPhone to accept offers on my eBay site, to do my emails, but it'd be wonderful to be able to have my laptop, which is such a bigger screen to use. That's why I like to carry it.
Right, right. No, this is something that really it's something that most or many phones can do. The iPhone's been doing this in Europe for years, but the carriers may or may not like it, and they, as you remember, AT&T has struggled a little bit with the fact that iPhone users eat so much data. Verizon, when they got the iPhone, kind of made a big deal like, hey, use all the data you want. We got a big network. We're fine. I don't know if they regret that now or not, but they they decided to turn on that hotspotting feature with version 4.3 of iOS. So if you don't see it in your settings, make sure you have the latest version. I think we're up to 4.4.1 or something like that.
Do you recommend jailbreaking your phone at all, or is that...
Well, that's the only time you would want to do it, right? If there's a feature, and by the way, it's legal to jailbreak. It's fairly safe. Apple will tell you otherwise, but it's fairly safe. The only reason that I would recommend doing it is if there's some software feature that is not available otherwise. All it means to jailbreak an iPhone is that you can get applications from places other than the approved App Store on iTunes.
Yeah, but they're going to save me quite a bit of money, actually.
Yeah, but you don't need to. And I am looking now at the plan. It's $20, and you get 2 extra gigabytes a month. So you'll get the regular data plan from Verizon, and then you'll add the extra $20 hotspotting plan.
Maybe I'll just sign up for that.
I think that's what I would do rather than jailbreak. It's true, you can jailbreak and do hotspotting without paying this additional $20 until Verizon catches you. And then they may say, who knows what they'll do. At the very least, they'll start charging you. I don't think it's worth it. It's built in. Apple, builds this feature into the phone, so it's probably the way to go.
Yeah, because we have Fios at home, which is wonderful, the fiber optic.
Oh, yeah, I'm jealous.
DSL at work, because it's an old infrastructure, so we can't get Fios at my shop. So we have DSL here, and my wife has a Verizon, I have a Verizon, so we're just Verizonites, I guess.
Well, now you're happy.
Well, I'll give that a shot. I'll go down. Actually, maybe I'll go to the store and ask them. Maybe they can take care of that for me right
they
there.
can do it, or you can do it online on your Verizon account. And I would ask, as long as you're going to go to the store, I would say, so when, but I'm almost positive that you can cancel it at any time. Here's the only trick. Sometimes phone companies will do this. When you change the features on your plan, read the fine print, because sometimes what they do is extend your contract another 2 years from that point. They say, yeah, we'll be glad to do that. No problem. And by the way, now we own you for another 2 years. So, you know, read the fine print before you say yes to that. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. And I think $20 a month is a fair price. So go for that. And it's nice to, I use, you know, T-Mobile, that's another reason why I'm not happy about T-Mobile merging with AT&T, has offered this kind of capability for free on Android phones for some time. And I had a MiFi card, but once I, you know, got an Android phone that could do hotspotting, no problem. I just turned that on. And I use T-Mobile's infrastructure for my data, and it's great. You can use it on a laptop, an iPad, an iPod Touch, anything that has Wi-Fi built into it. Hey, Brandon, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Been watching you since the screensaver days.
Thank you. I'm getting a little grayer, a little heavier, a little older. But in every other respect, I'm the same nerd you came to know and love.
That's true.
I'm proudly nerdy. What can I do for you?
Me too, I'll be honest.
Yeah, sure. What's wrong with being a nerd?
Nothing.
Why, even as I'm speaking to you right now, I am updating the ROM on my Android phone to Cyanogen Build 106. That's how nerdy I am.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a Symbian Anna for my Nokia N8.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I have an N8. So there's an update on the Symbian coming?
Yeah, supposedly it's at the end of August, but they keep on postponing it every week.
Yeah. I love the camera on the N8 is to die for. 12 megapixels, Zeiss lens, but I think the software feels a little sluggish, a little outdated. So I hope that they do something nice with this new Symbian.
Yeah, I hope so too.
So is that your primary phone?
Yes, it is, actually.
Oh, wow. You are nerdy.
Been waiting for the iPhone 5 if it comes out.
Well, let's talk about that, and I'm going to answer your Linux question, but we have to take a break right now. I'm sorry I wasted your time. Local news is next. More of the Tech Guy right after this. We'll try to get Abby to use the... Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Hour number 3 of the Tech Guy Show. If you'd like to join the conversation, I'd love to have you. Phone number is 8888-ASK-LEO. That's 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. Outside the U.S., just use Skype out or any VoIP solution. Because it's a toll-free number in the U.S., that usually means you don't have to pay anything to call us. And we'd love to hear from people all over the world. It's always fun. We were talking with Brandon before the break about a lot of different things, including his must be an iconoclast, his Nokia N8 cell phone. And you probably saw this the quarterly results from Nokia this past week were so disappointing. They're really losing market share rapidly. Their last hope, though, is to get the Windows Phone 7 on some Nokia handsets. They've made a deal with Microsoft to do so. I was kind of excited. Stephen Elop, the president of Nokia, who came from Microsoft, announced a couple of months ago the N9, the successor to the phone you and I have, Brandon, which looked beautiful and was going to be, I think, the first and last one to run MeeGo, right? Their Linux-based operating system. But now the latest I'm seeing is that Nokia seems to be backpedaling on this and may never release an N9, or if they do, it'll be running Windows Phone 7. So I guess it's kind of the end of the line for Symbian, for MeeGo, for Maemo, for all these other operating systems that Nokia was using. They're going Microsoft big time.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't, you know, I like Windows Phone 7. I have a Windows phone, and I think it's a pretty nice smartphone, especially for people who've never used a smartphone before, which I think is a lot of the Nokia audience. I think that's why they're looking at Windows Phone 7. They want to get smartphones into the hands of people in nations where they haven't been using smartphones because the data plans are too pricey. Anyway, that's enough of that. What can I do for you?
I have a compact laptop. It's a CQ61 series. And no matter what version of Linux I use, it seems to be like if it's Debian-based, like Ubuntu, or actually Debian or Fedora, it refuses to wake from sleep. The power light just flashes 2 times, and according to Compaq, it means the EFI is corrupted.
Oh, boy.
The only way I can actually get it to even turn back on is pulling the battery. Holding down the power button don't even work.
So what I would suggest, there's a website, actually a couple of websites for Linux laptop users. You know, first of all, none of these laptops were designed to be used with Linux. Linux is a free operating system, which is actually also celebrating its birthday. Let's see, was it 1992 that Linus Torvalds created Linux, or 1991? I think it was 91, because I think the Linux Foundation is saying it's the 20th anniversary of Linux, so it must have been 91. The summer of 91, Linus Torvalds, who was a Finnish graduate student, he was a little fed up with the cheesy operating systems that they were using in his college to teach computers, particularly one called Minix. He said, I could do better than that. I could do better than that in my kitchen in my spare time. And he wrote a new operating system. His name was Linus, so he was duplicating Minix. So he said, well, I'm going to call it Linus's Minix, or Linux. And he did something very interesting. Instead of saying, and by the way, I own it, and if you want to use it, you're going to pay me, he merely trademarked the name Linux. Now, this is in Finland, but I think eventually trademarked it worldwide. So he kind of controls what can be called Linux, but he open-sourced the software. He said, anybody who wants to work on this project can. Anybody who wants to see what I did can. And he actually went to the Internet. Now, this is 91, so, you know, it was early days on the Internet. Only geeks were on the Internet in 91. And put a message on Usenet saying, hey, I've written an operating system. Anybody want to see it and help out? He gave it away. It has, in those 20 years, become the most widely used operating system in history. Now, you may say, well, wait a minute, who's using Linux? I don't know anybody who's using Linux. Well, you're using Linux. Almost every time you go to the Internet, almost every web page you load, including all of my websites, are running on computers that are running Linux. Google runs on Linux. Does it? I think it does. And certainly a lot of websites do. Even Microsoft sometimes runs on Linux. So the original Hotmail was written on Linux. Microsoft had to go to great pains to rewrite it so that it would be running on Microsoft's operating systems. So Linux is very, very widespread, very, very successful. But most laptops that you would buy in the store are not designed to be used with Linux. That Compaq, of course, came with Windows, I'm sure, when you bought it, Brandon, and it's designed for use with Windows. Now, why does that mean that there's a potential problem? Well, if you want to use a laptop with Linux, you have to find hardware drivers for that laptop hardware on Linux. The laptop manufacturer makes sure that there's complete sets of drivers for Windows, but they don't care about Linux. They're not going to go to the trouble to make it work with Linux. So, as usual in the world of Linux, it only works if somebody owns it and has written drivers for it. That's why I like these sites. This is one that I particularly like called Linux on Laptops, linux-laptop.net. And you can go right in there and you'll see here are all the manufacturers of laptops. So you'll pick Compaq, and then once you pick Compaq, you'll pick look at all the models. You'll pick the model, and then it'll give you information on what you need to do to get this thing to work and how well it will work, how fully it will work. Brandon, which Compaq did you have?
It's a CQ61 313US.
All right, let's see. CQ60, and then they skipped a CQ71. It's my guess that the 60 and 61 are probably in the same family. So if you here's the Presario CQ60, it will say what works, what doesn't work, what drivers or special drivers you would need. Looks like you've got an NVIDIA GeForce card, which means you might need an NVIDIA driver for this thing. Sleep might be related to that, by the way. So,
yeah, mine's actually got an ATI chip in it.
Okay. So you're going to have to look and find one that's close, and it may be the reason it's not in the database is it doesn't fully work. Usually the problems with Linux and hardware are related to video drivers, that kind of thing, sometimes sound drivers, network drivers, motherboard drivers. But really, if you think about it, Sleep is kind of a deep hardware capability, and it may be that the Linux kernel itself doesn't have the right features to support sleep on that ATI chipset. So it's going to take a little research. When you buy a laptop, if you intend to run it on Linux, I would go to these sites, these Linux laptop sites first, make sure that laptop model works. My friend Cory Doctorow, who routinely takes any Windows laptop he uses, wipes it and puts Linux on it because he's a big advocate of free and open software, likes the Lenovos. He said that the ThinkPads seem to almost always work well with Linux. That may be as much because the Linux community likes Lenovos and makes sure that there's drivers for them as anything else. In any event, so my suggestion, Brandon, is to go to one of these sites like Linux Laptops and see if you can find out. You're relying on the community. So you'll go to a website and see what the community says. See what the community's done. See if anybody's written a driver or found a fix for this sleep problem. I think Linux is a great operating system. I put it pretty routinely on any netbook that I own, mostly because I find netbooks don't work that well with Windows, but they often work great with Linux. And so Linux on a netbook is fantastic. You know, these new Google Chromebooks that Google is selling, which are essentially netbooks with Google's Chrome OS running on it. Chrome OS is Linux with a browser in it. Well, wait a minute. In fact, what's the hottest phone out right now? According to Google, the Android phones, 500,000 new activations every day. What is Android? It's Linux. So Linux is everywhere. You may not know it. You may not know you're running it. But if you use an Android phone, if you use a Chromebook, if you surf the web, you're using Linux all the time. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls to come.
Who's Larry? You just read that from the Wikipedia site.
Well, yeah, just checking to make sure that they got their Linux facts right. So crank up and scream on your banshee. Linux sets you free.
Past people thought it was just a hobby. Now Linux is supreme.
Okay, I give up. What the heck is that? Kyle Benham. Why did you play that song?
For Linux, it's a parody by Novell.
Oh. It's a kind of a Linux song.
Round and round and round and round and round.
Don't know a thing about what you
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We will talk not just Linux, but computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all that jazz. Our gadget guru, Dick DiBartolo, coming up at 47:30 past the hour. I'm sure he's going to have a wonderful gadget for us all. But before we go there, let's go here to Mark, who apparently is in the same town as the Tech Guy Labs, Petaluma, California. Hi, Mark.
Hey, it's Uncle Leo.
Uncle Mark.
How's it going?
I'm great. Have you ever been to our studios here?
No, but I would love to do it. I just moved up to the area. I've been listening to you on my iHeartRadio app.
There you go. There you go. iHeartRadio is awesome. Free app for any phone. You can get on the computer, too, and listen to the show anytime you want, wherever you are. But please come over to the studios here. We've got these beautiful new studios. We always have an open door. We've got people visiting right now from Orlando, Florida, from Fresno, and Orange County. It's nice to see you all.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what can I do for you?
Well, I've been writing a book for a few months now, and my dad, who actually turned me on to your show, got me a Motorola Zoom. And I would love to be able to take that with me and work on my story wherever I'm at. And I was wondering if you could recommend an app or the best way to go about doing that, because I've tried about 1 million different free apps, and they all seem to fail miserably.
Yeah. The Zoom XOOM is Motorola's honeycomb-based tablet. It was actually, I think, the first Android tablet, the first one that got a lot of attention anyway. And it's actually a beautiful tablet, very nicely made. Unfortunately, Google's tablet efforts, the Android tablets, are a little behind the iPad in terms of the range of applications. The iPad has around 250,000 apps, give or take a few 100,000. The tablet apps available on Android, as I think you've probably already figured out, number at best in the hundreds.
Right.
The good news is it's an Android tablet. It's a Google tablet, and Google Docs works great with it. So, in fact, I think this is a really good solution for you. There's a Google Docs app that lets you kind of keep track of your Google Docs, but your document itself, your novel itself, will live on Google's servers, which is great because that means when you're at home, you can work on your desktop at docs.google.com. And then when you hit the road, you can work on your Zoom tablet. The only issue will be, of course, well, what do you do on an airplane when you don't have connectivity? And I don't know if they've solved that yet. But, of course, with the Chromebook, that's a big issue for Google. They've got to have a way to make docs kind of persist. And I'm pretty sure that they're getting there on Chrome. They're getting there on the desktop. They killed something called Google Gears, which was the old way of doing that. And I don't know if they found a solution yet for the desktop, and I don't think they found a solution yet for Android. But I'm sure they want to, and they will. So this is a good solution for right now. It just means that when you're not online, when you're in an airplane, let's say, you won't be able to write. You'll have to just relax.
Right. Well,
But you've got 3G on your Zoom, right?
I don't have 3G. I just use Wi-Fi, but I do pair it up with my Android phone.
Good. So that'll keep you online, sure.
Mm-hmm. I was also wondering, once I'm done, if you could recommend a good way to get my story out onto the market.
I sure can. Let me just see. I'm just doing a search now. This is at Google. I want to do, offline document editing is not yet supported, but we're waiting, and I'm convinced that they will add this to Android at some point. So as for self-publishing, Amazon has in the past I've mentioned Lulu.com. Amazon does something too, and I think Amazon's probably a better choice just because it's Amazon. The idea is these are publishing solutions for people who have books that they're writing. What kind of book is it, just out of curiosity?
Well, it's kind of half fiction, half nonfiction, grungy murder, drug love story.
I love it. Is this taken straight from the pages of your life, Mark?
Absolutely.
So here's the Amazon site. It's called CreateSpace at createspace.com. And what this will let you do is take your Google Doc or Microsoft Word doc or PDF or whatever format you've got. You upload it to them, and then you can have it printed. People can buy it from them in a printed form. And what's beautiful about this is they don't print it until somebody buys it. So there's no upfront cost to you.
That is amazing.
Yeah. It's called just-in-time printing. But they can also make it available on Kindle through Amazon.com and other ebook solutions. So, and they pay, essentially you decide how much you want to make by saying this is how much the book, I want to charge, and you'll get what's left over after they take their cut. So I think this is a great solution because you get Amazon distribution. You make more money. It's free. In the old days, Vanity Press, you'd have to, pay them to print 1,000 books. And I think this makes much more sense. Now, if you sell on CreateSpace eStore, then they take 20% of the list price. You get 80%. If you sell it on Amazon.com, they take 40%. You get 60%. They have other channels at which they'll put it out there, and you get 40%. Let me tell you, the best I ever got publishing a book with a real publisher was a 15% royalty, 15% royalty after the advance, which, in fact, never, because it's computer books, we never got anything additional. So even at their lowest rate of 40%, you're doing better than 3 times better than you would get from any publisher ever.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially the print on order.
Right. And if you look at, if you go to createspace.com and you take a look at how it all works, there's certain fixed charges. A black and white book, $3 a book. So if you charged, $12, you get, a lot more. It all works out very favorably for you, the author. The other one I mentioned, and I've recommended for years, is Lulu, Lulu.com. Same idea. It's print on demand, essentially. They will make an ebook for you. Either way, the economics have shifted greatly in the favor of the author. Good luck, Mark. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We've been talking about other ways to self-publish, and somebody mentioned another site like Lulu, like CreateSpace, called eBookit, EBOOKIT.com. Basically, they take your manuscript, they convert it into the appropriate electronic form. This is not a print on demand; it's electronic books, and then upload it or submit it to all the various bookstores. There are a lot of them now. I mean, there's Google has a bookstore, and of course, iBookstore, the Apple bookstore, Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, the Kobo, which was Borders. I see they still have Borders on here. Reader Store and Diesel eBook Store, but these are all ebook publishers. Ebook publishing, though, man, it seems to be the wave of the future. Authors make more even though they charge considerably less, and I think when you can say my book is only $2 or $1, there's a lot of impulse purchases. It's not as risky. People like reading books on the Kindle and other e-devices, so I think, frankly, if I were writing novels, especially these days, I would focus on electronic publishing. It's just less cost up front, less risk for you, less risk for your reader. And because you get so much more of the money, you can, you'll make more money charging $2 than you would going through a standard publisher charging $29.95. Harold is in South Carolina. Our next call. Hi, Harold. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, welcome to the show.
I was talking to her about, I've got about 54 emails from a place called IRS Notification.
And are they asking for money?
No, it says here that they were unable to process my tax return.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm sure the IRS does that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's exactly how if I were the federal government, I would send you email from some random unknown server saying, "Hey, we couldn't process your tax return. Why don't you go to this website and give us your social security number, your credit card number, your bank address." Oh, and probably they're offering you a tax refund, right?
No, actually, I sent my paperwork to the IRS.
This isn't the IRS. You know that, right?
I know.
Oh, okay. But I'm just asking you, is the hacker offering you a big refund?
No, what it just says here is it says what you need to do is print out the attachment, notification, and listing documents.
Okay. So here's how this one works. Here's how this one works. You might be saying, well, gosh, that's an interesting attack. How could they possibly steal anything from me by asking me to print something out?
Yeah.
How risky could that be? Oh, wait, stop. So here's what they're preying on. Turns out that Adobe Reader, you know that program you downloaded for free from Adobe that allows you to open PDF files?
Right.
Turns out that is the worst piece of junk ever and has so many bugs and holes and exploits. Adobe keeps patching it and more keeps showing up. So here's how this exploit works. They send you this scary email from the IRS saying, hey, either it's scary or they get you by offering you money. And I'm looking on Snopes.com, and they go both ways. Sometimes they say, if you don't fill this out and send it to us, you could go to jail. Or they say, hey, we've got a $280 to $2 refund check. We just can't get to you. Please fill this out. Either way, what they really want you to do is open that attached PDF file, right?
Right.
Because if you happen to be running a version of Adobe Reader that isn't yet patched, They just put malware on your system. All you had to do was double-click that attachment.
Yeah.
You didn't do that, did you?
Yeah, it says there's a support manager, and then in parentheses inside the address, it says support.manager@irs.gov.
Yeah, well, of course they put that. That way it would be, more likely for you to believe it. Did you open the PDF that was attached to it?
No, I didn't.
You are a smart man. You get our antivirus winner award of the year.
Cool.
Or at least of the week. You're a virus fighter. So that would have been the fatal blow. Now, the good news is, Harold, I can tell you're a smart man. You keep Windows up to date.
Yep.
And probably this is the reason this works. What the bad guys have realized is people keep Windows up to date now. Darn them. So how are we supposed to attack you? Oh, here's some good news. Nobody checks Adobe Reader to see if it's up to date, do they? In fact, most of the attacks now come through third-party applications.
Okay.
Because people don't keep those up to date, and there's no centralized mechanism to do so. Windows Update works great. It automatically checks, gets the latest version. But in order for you to update Adobe's products, you have to either download an Adobe Updater or check. And most people don't do that. So it's really, this is very effective, is to get you to open a PDF. So folks, listen carefully. I've said it for years. Email attachments are still very dangerous. Don't open attachments. And this attachment, had you opened it, Harold, would have put malware on your system. This is a fake. Obviously, it's not from the IRS. It's from a bad guy. And you might say, well, if it's a phishing scam, where's the link to click? Well, there's no link in this one. There's an attached PDF file that you're supposed to open, print, fill out, and mail to the IRS. Well, what could the harm be there? Well, the minute you open that PDF file, if you are not running a safe version of Adobe Reader, and many of you aren't, you'll get a virus. You'll get a virus. Now, there's a couple of solutions. One is, first thing, absolutely, if you insist on using Adobe Reader, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you insist on that, is to turn off third-party scripting in the settings. This is how most of these attacks occur. In the settings of Adobe Reader, they allow scripting languages to run. And you don't need that. There are very few PDFs that have scripting, and most of them are malicious. Turn that off. That'll save you. Then go to Adobe's site. Make sure you have the latest version. Or, better yet, don't use Adobe Reader. There are lots of good choices. Foxit, Cute PDF. I've been using Sumatra PDF lately. It's free. Works very well. And as far as I know, these exploits don't occur in those. They only occur in the Adobe package. Now, that doesn't mean these are bug-free programs. But if you're the bad guy, you go after the program everybody has, which means you go after Adobe. Don't believe it. IRS isn't going to send you an email saying print this form and send it to us. That's not going to happen. Your instincts were good, Harold. You get the Virus Fighter of the Week award. I'm going to have to create a special hat or something that you'll have to wear for the rest of the week. Tim in Santa Ana, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Tim.
Hi. Got a quick question for you, Leo.
Yes, sir.
A friend of mine has a gadget, and it is not Wi-Fi, and it is not 3G or 4G. It's made by Ambient. It's a baseball Scorecaster gadget. It tracks all the teams and the scores and the stats.
Yeah.
And you can send it a text message. So if it's not Wi-Fi or 4G, what kind of network is it?
Isn't that clever? I actually, when Ambient first came out with these, they had just glowing lights that when the stock market was down would glow red. When it was up, they would glow green. They would get different information. And they've gotten a lot more sophisticated, these Ambient devices. In fact, now you can get weather. You can get, as you say, you can have the baseball Scorecaster. There's all different, the Market Maven. They've got a 7-day weather forecaster. And what's beautiful is you don't need an internet connection. I think it's, I'm not sure, but I would guess it's using the old pager networks.
Oh, it's like a pager network.
Yeah.
Oh.
Remember remember a pager?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if anybody carries pagers anymore. Everybody had pagers, but no, not anymore. It's the old, they call it the InfoCast wireless network. I think it's the old pager.
Okay.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Look at that. That's a real good-looking boy. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the number. We're almost done, but you know what? Before we go, I got to say hi to my good friend, Mr. Dick DeBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer for the last 4 decades. He's also a gadget hound and our personal gizwiz. Hello, Dickie D. And he can't hear me.
Leo, how you doing, pal?
I'm great. There seems to be quite a delay here.
I can't.
No, but there's a very long delay. What are you listening to? Are you listening to me?
I am listening to you, but there is an incredibly long delay today.
You're not listening to the TWiT stream, are you?
No, I am listening to you, whatever you're putting out over Skype.
Well, that's weird. I don't understand it, but I'll tell you what. You start talking about 4 or 5 seconds before I stop talking, and it should be fine.
Okay, very good.
That's how they do it on CNN. So, Dick, what's your gadget? What's your gadget of the week?
We're going to talk about something from Wagon, spelled WGAN, and in the emergencies, you would want a Power Dome NX. Now, we talked about this earlier, and you said, I don't want this. It's 18 pounds. But, Leo, the Power Dome, what you do, has a built-in battery that you charge up. Once it's charged, you now have, in an 18-pound unit, a device that can jumpstart your car if you have a low battery. It has AC outlets, DC outlets, a USB charging port, an LED work light, an AM/FM radio, and even an input so you can play your tunes through the Power Dome device.
Is this a lead-acid battery? It must be.
It is. It is a lead-acid battery.
So that's the kind of battery that's in a car, and those are heavy. But the nice thing is they have a lot of cranking power. I mean, that's what you need to start up a car. Yeah.
Exactly. And on the Daily Gizwiz, we talked about the NX, but since then I found out for about $10 more, you can get the EX,
yes,
which has 600 amps of cranking power.
And does it make julienne fries?
You know what the new one does, Leo? The current one only makes mashed and sweet potato pie.
It's like the slap chop.
Yeah, it does everything, but it's really great. You take it, you keep it in your car, and then I wish I had a car, but I keep one down the boat because in an emergency, you can jumpstart a battery. You can have lights when you have no C on the boat. It's pretty neat. And Leo, on Amazon, about $100. No, is that a no?
No, that's good. I'm just winking.
Oh, okay.
No, that's good. $100, 20 pounds. Keep it in your car or keep it in your boat. And when your boat starts drifting, you can use it as an anchor as well.
You could. It would be the world's most... No, actually, it's probably cheaper than a good anchor.
Exactly.
You're right. You're right. You're amazing. You're amazing.
No, it's the chat room, actually. I stole somebody's line.
Oh, okay.
Dick is the guy in charge at at Disneyland. That's what he calls his crazy gadget warehouse. We do a fantastic podcast every week called the Weekly Daily Gizwiz. Don't ask. It's complicated. But you can listen. We're going to do the show in just a little bit on the TWiT network, and you can always download it at twit.tv/DGW. And, of course, Dick's website is gizwiz.biz, GIZWIZ.biz. But there are
Leo, if they
no
play
Z's.
the What the Heck Is It game, they win the new Angry Birds Mad.
It was only a matter of time. Alfred E. Newman in Angry Birds. Man, I hope that Rovio does that. That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
You could shoot Alfred's head at the pigs. Dickie D, thanks for joining us. Gizwiz.biz, that's his website. And stick around, Dick. We're going to be back in just a bit. And we'll do our little weekly daily Gizwiz.
I'll be here.
All right. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's see if we can power through a few more calls before the end of the show. Ernie in Michigan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Ernie.
Hello.
What can I do for you today?
I have a really stubborn app that I've used a year or two ago on my iPhone. It's over 1 gigabyte. It's a GPS app. No matter what I do, I take it off of my laptop. I've deleted it from my iTunes, and every time it wants to get updated, it shows up again. And it takes all night to download because I'm usually traveling 100% for my job.
It's a gigabyte.
Something.
Yeah. So you're saying it's when you sync your iPhone, iTunes says, "Oh, he owns this program. Let's download it."
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you should do is in iTunes, when you connect your phone, you'll see your phone there in the iTunes list on the left, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. And then click on it, and then you'll see across the top, you'll see synchronization information for that phone, including an apps tab. Now, once you're in the apps tab, you'll see that you can uncheck apps you don't want it to synchronize. So the GPS app should be sitting there. Uncheck it, and it should not attempt to copy it to your phone ever again.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's coming back after you delete it, but except that perhaps it's keeping track of what apps you've had, and it automatically.
And took it out of the when I you know, like on your when you don't have your phone connected, you can still see the apps.
Right.
So I deleted it.
Deleted it there.
Deleted it
Well,
from the hard.
it must be somehow keeping track of what you owned. Maybe there was an update pending. I mean, in theory, that should work. You just get rid of it; it should be gone. But just uncheck it; it will be gone. Once you've unchecked it, you probably can delete it at that point, and you won't have to worry about it ever again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Payam in Los Angeles. Did I say that right? Payam?
Hi there. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, Liam. I have a quick question for you. I have a dilemma, actually, that I wanted to see if you can help out with that.
Okay.
As a serviceman, I deal with a lot of leads with business cards, invoices, and I'm on the road all the time and have to deal with the map and GPS.
Right.
Currently, I'm using Google Maps, and some of these leads, different locations that I go, I just mark them on the map, and it comes as a star. There is no information and notes I can add, and it's not searchable or customizable.
So what you want is a map app that allows you to keep notes in the app.
Yeah. Keep notes, being able to make it customizable and set different categories, let's say for these leads or different dates that I could be able to bring the dates of, let's say, for the month of August up, or be able to bring certain locations that mark the leads that are for certain locations, let's say, for example, in the valley. Or maybe I can add notes. I've looked at a bunch of things that might work on Android. I've gone to even Apple Store and talked with a bunch of representatives, had no clue about it. I thought you would be the best person to ask if you have any solution to make my job easier, because I've had hundreds of business cards and they get lost, and invoices I have to keep track. It's a big mess.
Yeah, you kind of want a contact manager, something like Act, that has an ability to also map the contacts.
Yes, exactly. Is there such a thing?
I don't know of one off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. Anybody in the chat room, do you have a solution for an Act-like contact or lead manager that would also? If you know what, I'll be honest, Payam. If this doesn't exist, this is absolutely something that should be written. You could do it as a mashup. You know, Google Maps has a complete API, so it would be a very straightforward thing for a programmer to take a basic contact management solution and automatically add maps to it. I'm looking in the chat room. I don't see anything. I'll keep looking, Payam. Listen tomorrow. Maybe I'll have a solution for you. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.